Leading up to the release of the Super Mario Brothers movie, I could not explain to you how excited I was. Now, granted, I had my reservations, like everybody else did, specifically with Chris Pratt playing Mario. Wasn't very impressed by the bits of his voice that we could hear in the trailers. So I had my reservations about that. But with every trailer that they released, I was more and more excited for it. The movie looked fun, energetic. It looked like it captured the essence of the world and the characters. I was really excited for it. And in case you don't know, I'm a huge fan of movies. I love movies, and I love hearing people talk about movies. So I watch a lot of movie reviewers on YouTube, and a lot of the early critics reviews were saying either it's fine but has a lot of problems, or it wasn't that good. And so my concerns shot through the roof. My hype didn't die. I was still insanely excited about this movie. But all of a sudden, my one concern being Chris Pratt, that was out the window because now everything else was starting to concern me a little bit. But I thought, you know what? I'm not going to let a few critics that I respect their opinions on, I'm not going to let them ruin my excitement for this movie. I'm just going to go in, I'm going to watch it, and we'll just see what happens. And guys, the Super Mario Brothers movie is friggin' magical. Look, the important thing that I'd want to say here is that criticisms of this movie are valid. And the points that these people bring up are often pretty valid, with the lightning fast pacing, the paper thin plot. Like, that makes sense. That's understandable. In fact, I even agree with those issues to a degree. I just didn't care. I heard one guy talk about the fact that people are saying that the Mario movie has a paper thin plot, and there's not really much of a plot happening. And then he said, I've never played a Mario game for the plot. And I was like, you know what? That's fair. I've never played a Mario movie for the plot. I guess you could say maybe Super Mario Galaxy, but like obviously from the trailers, like we're not really touching that corner of Super Mario. Like we're kind of getting the basics. We're getting the characters. We're getting Mushroom Kingdom. We're getting Bowser. We're getting a little Donkey Kong. Like that's what we're getting. We're getting the stuff that everybody knows and everybody loves. And I saw this with a huge group of my friends. There was like 10 of us. We all went after our Bible study Wednesday night. And we all just had a blast. Every single one of us just freaking loved it. We thought it was awesome. We had so much fun with it. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I really love Super Mario. I'm a huge fan of all the Mario Brothers games. I'm a fan of Mario Kart, Smash Brothers. I grew up with all of those games. Mario Brothers is like my true video game staple from when I was a kid. Like, anything else is great. I played a lot of video games growing up and a lot of video games that I love, but when it comes down to it, I'm just a Nintendo guy, and that's just because of how much I played Nintendo growing up. I grew up on a 64. I played GameCube a bunch. We got a Wii whenever it came out, so we played a ton of Wii. I have a Switch. Like, I friggin' love Nintendo. I friggin' love Super Mario. And it felt like that this movie was made for me specifically. And honestly, I really loved that. I loved that the creators of this movie didn't feel the need to satisfy all of the critics, didn't feel the need to satisfy the hard-nosed film snobs or anything like that. They just made it for the Mario fans. They made it for the people who love Mario. And that's what I wanted. That was amazing. I loved that. That was my favorite part about the movie, is that it spoke to me. It just fit the vibe of the world and of the characters that I knew and loved. It was just awesome. I loved it. After I saw it, I immediately thought of the Uncharted movie that came out last year with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. I'm a big fan of the Uncharted games. I think they're a ton of fun. But when I think about that movie, it has nothing to do with Uncharted as I know it in the games. It just has, there's no real similarity. It just felt like a cheap adventure film. It was really bland. And I was thinking, like, what if they had made that Uncharted movie for Uncharted fans, and they really dove into the story, and they really dove into the characters, and really brought the movie that people were wanting to see from the games. And the sad thing is, there's a lot of other video game movies that feel very similar, that feel like it was just made for the lowest common denominator, try to appeal to everybody, but give like 1 or 2 Easter eggs to make fans of the game go, oh, is that thing from that game? This movie just gave me hope in a couple of different ways. One, it told me that video game movies can be good. We've had a long stretch of what is called the video game movie curse, where basically any movie adapted from a video game is bad. And while I don't like calling it a curse, there are some good ones out there. A vast majority of movies adapted from video games are not that great. And so it really did leave a lot of room for thought of, oh, are we ever going to get like a really good video game movie? It's friggin' here. It's awesome. It's so much fun. But yeah, the door is open to make really fun video game movies and really fun video game adaptations. And like I said, to not feel the need to bring in outsiders or to try and appeal to everybody. Like, no, just make it for the fans. It's a popular game. It's a popular franchise. People are gonna go see this movie. Make it the way people want to. Like that. The fact that that is now open and that is possible, I'm really excited about that. 2, this movie gives me hope that we can get more Nintendo-based video game movie adaptations. There's so many franchises that Nintendo has that I would love to see movies or shows from. More specifically, I'd love to see Luigi's Mansion. I'd love to see Legend of Zelda. I'd love to see Metroid. I'd love to see Star Fox. A ton of awesome IPs and franchises from Nintendo that, because this movie did well and was successful, that's possible, and people will go see that, and people are interested in it. So I'm really excited that Nintendo now has this foot in the door to make movies and shows and stuff like that all about these IPs and these franchises, these great franchises that they have under their wings. And the third reason this movie gives me hope, and this is kind of the big one, is that it reminds me that my taste in movies, that my interest in movies, or how I feel about a movie is not based on what the critics say. I don't have to go one for one with everything a critic says about a movie. I can have a differing opinion, and that's okay. There are critics that don't like this movie. There are critics that I respect and I listen to that don't like this movie or have a lot more concerns about this movie, and that's okay. I can freaking go and see this movie and have the time of my life and love it, while this person doesn't really like it, and that's okay. I don't have to have the same opinions. But because my taste in movies often lines up with critics, I kind of feel this need sometimes to, I don't know, I guess adapt to my views based off of what I hear in a critic's review that I might not think about, or is like, oh, I didn't really think about that. That kind of changes the way I view the movie. But I don't know, this movie, there's enough of a divide between fans and critics that, like, I really appreciate that fans are just sticking with what they think. If people have fun with this movie, they're just gonna say they had fun with this movie. They're gonna say that they loved it. If they didn't like this movie, they're gonna double down on it, and that's great. I love that. I went and saw this with my entire family on Saturday, and we all loved it. We all had the time of our lives. We all grew up playing the Mario games. We all friggin' love this world and these characters and this franchise, and so we just had a blast because it just felt like a movie that really just was made for us. And so I don't know, it felt really nice to not have to agree with the critics and for me to just love a movie because I loved it. So yeah, I guess the moral of this story is, if you want to go see the Super Mario Brothers movie, go see the Super Mario Brothers movie. Let people enjoy things. If you didn't like it, that's fine. If you loved it, that's great too. But just let people enjoy what they enjoy. People can have opinions, and that's cool. Okay, so I'm playing every Mario game for the next 2 weeks.